you, MP Brug, and Minister, you may continue.
Did the government then have positive advices from the two entities? If not, then what the decision based on to approve the tax holiday? How many more tax holidays are in the pipeline? And do they have negative advices also? If so, would the same procedures be used to approve this one or be used for others, especially if there are locals involved in those? It would be better to fight for local companies just as hard as we fight for the big companies. And Madam Chair, to be very clear through you, I informed Parliament previously that I cannot divulge information on the tax holiday. The tax holidays are granted in accordance with the law by national decree approved by COM and signed by the Governor and the Minister respectively. Next question. Is it possible that we
MP Irian, for your interruption, you may
Thank you.
continue.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to be very clear with the question that was posed, Madam Chair. The question was not to give any information regarding who got a tax holiday. It's a simple question, Madam Chair, which, Madam President, which the Minister can answer. How many requests? That's not divulging any information regarding the entity or individuals. So the questions that were posed, the Minister, to you, Madam President, she read all the questions. So I don't want to repeat the questions as an interruption. I would just like the questions to be answered because it's not divulging information. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Irian. Now, I don't know if the subsequent questions and answers that the Minister referred to would include an answer to your interruption, MP Irian, but in any case, I'll turn the floor back over to the Minister to address that and any other issues that she would address. Minister, you have the floor to continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question concerning how many, allow me to respond. There are 2 pending tax holidays requests. MP Irian, Madam Chair, through you. Continuing with the questions posed by MP Irian, is it possible that we take the money loan to GB, government can't lend to another entity, while the on-lending agreement to the airport shows loans from the European Investment Bank can be loaned through the government to the airport on lending PGIA? This is designed. This should have been considered for GB. Why are we reinventing the wheel? Madam Chair, through you, as stated, the PGIA funding is a grant received from the trust fund and a loan granted the European Investment Bank, whereas the GB funding is a loan from the Netherlands requested under Article 16 of the RFT. These types of funding are not directly comparable. Under Article 16 of the RFT, on which this loan is based, the government cannot borrow from the Netherlands to lend to third parties. It can only borrow for capital goods. Therefore, as I previously mentioned, it is not permissible to borrow funds solely to lend them out. The PGIA loan was partially a grant, which is fundamentally different from a loan from the Netherlands. It was never stated that the government cannot lend to third parties. Rather, it was clarified that the government's borrowing under Article 16 must be for capital goods. Additionally, it has been stated that GEBE will lease the generators through a lease agreement, effectively repaying the loan, similar to how the airport handles repayments through it, though in a different manner. I move on to questions by MP Brug. How much protest letters does the receivers receive? Madam Chair, through you, for the period July up until September, we received the following protest. Wage tax, AVBZ, AOV, AWW, 308 protest. Turnover tax, 172. Profit tax, 96. Were these amounts decreased in the tax revenue? Madam Chair, through you, protests are not reflected in the budget as tax revenues are recorded on a cash accounting basis, meaning they are based on actual collections. Consequently, outstanding funds are currently not included in the budget. Revenue projections are based on what the government expects to collect within this fiscal year, based on what was actually collected in the prior year and specific collection measures. Next question. How much did we overstate last year when it comes to tax revenues? Through you, Madam Chair, as mentioned before, taxes are recorded on a cash accounting basis rather than on an accrual basis. When collections fall short of what was budgeted, as happened this year, the budget must be adjusted to reflect a more realistic outlook. In 2022, tax collections exceeded the budget by $5 million, while in 2023, collections were $9 million less than budgeted. Next question, Budget 2024, who are the founders? Is it you, or is it a continuation of the previous government? Through you, Madam Chair, this budget amendment is an adjustment of the budget previously submitted by the former government that was approved in March of this year. And the last question posed was in reference to banks. The MP stated elderly no longer can withdraw minimally 50 guilders. Before it was 25. Can the minister look into this? Because of the service charge too, they cannot touch the monies. And through you, Madam Chair, I want to thank the MP for bringing this to my attention, and I will certainly look into this. Those were all of the questions posed to my person and answers provided, and I look forward to any further questions.
Thank you, Minister Gumbs, for your answers given thus far. Members of Parliament, you now have the opportunity to ask any clarifications from the Minister based on the answers given. Does any Member of Parliament have the opportunity? Yes, I see we're having some Members of Parliament wishing to make use of the clarification round, and I start with giving MP Irian the floor to pose his clarification questions. MP Irian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. President, I want to thank the Minister for her responses. I also saw that I believe the Ministry of Finance also submitted a crime fund policy. I saw from the staff of Finance. Okay, anyway, the government submitted a crime fund policy. But what I would like to know, because I didn't get to read the full email, is it part of then like a note of advising, so it's going to be attached to the budget? So what is the purpose of sending it now? Is it a note of advising? Is it no?
To answer your question, I guess it is kind of directed to the Minister to be clarified.
Yes.
But no, it has not been received in the format of a wijziging to the budget amendment. And I think it's in providing information as requested by members of Parliament. This is one of the documents of the many provided to Parliament.
Thank you.
Yeah, you may continue, MP Irian.
Just a couple of clarifications. The question regarding the funds borrowed for the loan. So I would like clarity then in terms of the COVID loans. Were the COVID loans then, it was stated that government cannot borrow loans unless it's for CapEx. So the COVID loans that were also borrowed to support businesses, among others, was that then CapEx or not? So the COVID loans, how do we see that as a clarification? And then the question regarding the tax holidays, again, it was stated, eventually the Minister did answer that there were 2 more in the pipeline, but there are 3 other parts pertaining to that question that if the other 2 have negative advices also, if the same procedures will be followed as the one that received the positive advice. Yeah, that was my question.
Thank you, MP Irian. I have MP Brug, you requested clarifications. MP Brug, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady. Now, basically for the clarification, I just wanted to make sure that the Honorable Minister just understood the last concern that I had with regard to what she just read. It was a little bit confusing to me just now, but basically, just to repeat to make sure that it is clear, is the fact that in the past, you could have taken out 25 guilders out of your account. Sometime recent, it have become the norm now that the minimum you can take out instead of 25 is 50 guilders. And for some of our vulnerable groups, this makes it very difficult for them, especially when it comes to managing their funds. So I just wanted to make sure that that question is clear to the Minister, because of the way she read it, repeated it, was a bit confusing. So thank you very much also for taking up that interest on behalf of our seniors and vulnerable groups.
Thank you, MP Brug. I now give the floor for clarifications to MP York.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, through you, I have one concern, and my concern is basically my question not being answered. I feel like we play a little ring around the rosy with the answer. Well, then because based on the definition given by through you, Madam Chair, by the Minister, I read it out in my prior, when I spoke prior, where it pertains to giving out tax holidays to attract foreign investment, support during economic downturns, and stimulates growth. I would like to know, piggybacking off of what the Minister said earlier, what growth, what added growth through granting this tax holiday to this particular project is St. Martin gaining in comparison to the grant not being given, seeing that the developer was already on St. Martin, the developer already started his development. And matter of fact, when I asked the Minister, through you, Madam Chair, referred to employment, when I asked the Minister in the prior meeting if the Ministry or the Minister is aware of how many employees this developer will be employing, where they're coming from, will it be locals, etc., the Minister had zero answers for me. So I hate to ask again, but what are the economical benefits from this particular tax holiday that we didn't already have prior to the tax holiday being given, seeing the construction was already on the way? The employee, the developer was not going to leave an empty shell. Somebody had to get hired eventually. So according to the Minister's definition herself, to you, Madam Chair, I'm kind of lost to how does the reality match up with the answers given thus far. And the fact that I have to ask the same question 4 different ways to get an answer is kind of worrying, and makes me question if I do get the answer, if it's sincere. Nothing against the Minister personally, but yeah, the fact that I have to ask the same question numerous times is quite alarming in itself.